This audiobook was released for free to the subscribers here on the channel. The Most Prosperous Men of the Bible, What They Knew About Wealth That You Need to Understand. Since long ago, some people have managed to achieve a very prosperous life, even going through very difficult situations. And we're not just talking about money, but a way of living where abundance was a natural result of the way they thought and acted. These stories aren't made-up tales meant to entertain. They are real accounts of men who, even while facing poverty, wars, slavery, and persecution, became references for wealth and influence. The Bible shows several of these names, men who knew something that many still don't understand, that wealth doesn't depend on where you are, nor on luck or the opportunities that appear. It begins in the way you think, the way you feel, and how you respond to life. They weren't waiting for wealth to appear out of nowhere. But they also didn't believe wealth was just a matter of luck, or something reserved for people born into rich families. They had one thing very clear. They knew everything starts in the mind. Before money truly arrives, it must first pass through thoughts, beliefs, and the feeling that one deserves a better life. And if you're listening to this now, it's because you also want to understand this. Maybe you're tired of living just to pay bills, tired of looking at your bank statement in fear, tired of comparing yourself to others and feeling down. Maybe you're ready to learn what the richest men in history knew, and use that in your own life, starting right where you are. Most people only look at results. They see someone with a nice car, a beautiful house, expensive clothes, and immediately think they were lucky, born with a silver spoon. They know important people. But that's what a mind trapped in scarcity tends to think. What those men of the Bible had wasn't just faith, it was faith that turned into action. They made firm decisions, even when the circumstances were difficult. They acted every day, and that built their future. They didn't sabotage themselves or play the victim. They knew their worth, and because of that, they knew where they were headed. Before continuing with the teachings, make sure you've already hit the subscribe button on the channel, but only do it if you truly want to attract wealth into your life. If possible, write in the comments, "I will eat the best of the land." Now, take a deep breath and pay attention to what really matters when we talk about wealth. It's not just about knowing old stories. It's about understanding what's behind those stories. It's about looking at the lives of people like Solomon, Joseph of Egypt, Abraham, and realizing what they did differently. Why were they able to prosper anywhere, even in hard times? What did they know about the mind, about attitudes, about how to deal with the world around them? And more importantly, what can you start doing today, even if you're still broke, to get your mind on the right path and begin building a richer life? The first thing that becomes clear when analyzing the lives of these men is that they all had a sense of purpose. They didn't live like leaves carried by the wind. They weren't at the mercy of circumstances. Even when they faced loss, prison, rejection, or temporary lack, they never lost sight of their direction. And that's exactly where many people fail. When everything is going well, they talk about faith, abundance, and dreams. But the moment something goes wrong, they go back to complaining, doubting, thinking small. The mind that attracts wealth is stable. It remains firm. It chooses where to place its focus. And it knows that even when nothing seems to be happening on the outside, everything is being built on the inside. Another fundamental point that these men mastered was the daily practice of gratitude, even in the face of scarcity. It may seem simple, but it's one of the most powerful habits you can develop. Joseph, even in prison, acted with excellence. David, even while running for his life, wrote songs of trust. They weren't waiting for things to improve to feel good. They felt good so that things would begin to improve, and that is a key. Most people live waiting, when I have money, I'll be happy. When I get out of debt, I'll have peace. But that order needs to be reversed. First, you feel peace. First, you connect with inner wealth, and that starts with gratitude. Wealth does not come to those who complain. You don't attract prosperity with thoughts of misery, with words of defeat, or with lazy attitudes. It may be hard to hear, but it's necessary. Wealth is responsibility. It's the result of a trained mind. And the most prosperous men in the Bible didn't just pray, they also took a stand. They worked diligently, used wisdom, took care of the little details. And that's exactly what you need to start doing. It's not enough to just wish to be rich. You have to become a person ready to handle wealth. A rich mind builds a rich life. Now stop for a moment. Reflect honestly. Have you been thinking like someone who is ready for wealth? Do your words reflect someone who attracts opportunities? Or are you still feeding thoughts of fear, comparison, scarcity? Change begins when you become brutally honest with yourself, when you stop blaming others, the government, the crisis, luck, and start taking control of your own mind. Start with simple habits. Wake up with intention. Visualize the rich life you want to live every day. Speak words of abundance. Refuse to engage in negative conversations. Read, study, grow a little every day. And most importantly, act. One step at a time, but always moving toward expansion. That's how you rebuild a mind. That's how you plant wealth. In the next chapters, we will go deeper into each biblical example, showing specific decisions these men made, how they viewed money, how they dealt with challenges, and how you can adapt all of that to your current reality. But none of it will matter if you don't decide right now to take this seriously, not as a pretty theory, but as a lifestyle, as a daily commitment to your prosperity. Wealth is not magic. It is repetition. It is persistence. It is vision. And if you're here, your time has come. Among all the examples of prosperity we find in the Bible, one of the most striking is Joseph, the son of Jacob, not just because of all that he achieved, but because of the way he achieved it. Joseph didn't begin his journey from a place of advantage. In fact, he was sold as a slave by his own brothers. That, for many people, would have been the end. Betrayed, losing his freedom, taken to a foreign land without any resources, without support, without hope. But that's exactly where the true construction of wealth begins, when everything around seems to be against you, but your mind remains focused. Joseph is the perfect picture of what we call a prosperity mindset. Even as a slave, he acted like a leader. He didn't wait for perfect conditions. He did the best with what he had. And that is one of the first lessons you need to understand. Wealth begins with the wise use of the little you have. Many people wait to have a lot before acting with excellence, but the most prosperous men of the Bible did the opposite. They brought excellence even to what was small. They understood that the universe, God, life, or however you prefer to call it, responds to the internal commitment to greatness, not to the external value of things, but to the value you give to what you have in your hands. The scarcity mindset makes a person despise the little they have. They complain about their job, their routine, their salary, their house, the city they live in, as if those things were the reason for their situation. But the truth is different. Your external reality is a reflection of what you cultivate in your mind every day. Joseph could have rebelled. He could have given in to discouragement, anger, victimhood, but he chose a different path. He understood that prosperity is not about where you are. It's about who you are while you're there. While many people wait for life to change so they can feel good, prosperous men do the opposite. They feel good before the change happens. And that changes everything. That alters the vibrations you emit, the thoughts you reinforce, the attitudes you choose. And over time, it also changes what you attract. Prosperity starts within. It starts when you turn, "I have nothing," into, "I'll use what I have." When you replace complaining with action. When you begin to treat what is small as if it were big. This is not theory. It's practice. And it works. Joseph stood out where no one expected. First as a slave, then as a prisoner, and only then as a governor. The order matters, because it shows that the process of wealth goes through construction phases. You can't skip steps. What Joseph carried inside, his vision, his faith, his discipline, his ability to serve with excellence, already made him rich even when he had no material possessions. That is the key. Be rich before having riches. Be prosperous before seeing prosperity on the outside. You need to start building that now, right where you are. Start observing how you talk about money, about the future, about your possibilities. Most people, without realizing it, feed phrases and thoughts that completely sabotage prosperity. Things like, "That's not for me," "I'll never get out of debt," "I'm not lucky," "I was born to struggle." Every time you repeat something like that, you're watering the scarcity mindset. You're giving strength to an idea that keeps you trapped. And the only way to break it is to replace those thoughts with affirmations of power. It's not enough to just stop thinking negatively. You must reprogram. You must repeat firmly what you want to live. Say it out loud. "Wealth is within me." It may feel strange at first, it may even feel like a lie, But that's how you start shaping a new mind. Repetition, consistency, commitment. You won't transform overnight. But every time you affirm it, every time you act like a rich person, every time you treat life with excellence, you're taking a step. Joseph had no idea he would become governor, but he already acted like someone great. He didn't know how long he'd be in prison, but even there he maintained his posture. This shows something essential. Your attitude cannot depend on your circumstances. It must come from the decision of who you want to become, and that decision must be made daily. You wake up every day with two choices: to feed scarcity or to cultivate abundance. Think carefully. Are you really behaving like someone who wants to prosper? Are you tending to your mind like a garden, or are you letting any thought grow? The most prosperous men in the Bible had this kind of care. They chose their words. They protected their thoughts. They chose where to put their energy, and that created a field of growth around them. Prosperity started in the invisible, but soon became visible. You don't need to wait anymore. You don't need to wait for the end of the month, for your paycheck, for the debt to be gone. Start now. Start by changing your tone when you talk about money. Start by changing how you see the place where you live. Start by finding gratitude, even in the little things. And most importantly, start visualizing the rich life you want to live. See it with the eyes of your mind. Feel it as if it's already real. This is not fantasy, it's training, it's mental strengthening. You need to train yourself for wealth, because if your mind isn't ready, even if money comes, it will go. How many people win the lottery and lose everything? How many inherit money and end up poorer later? Because it's not about the money, it's about the mind that handles that money. It's about the behavior that sustains wealth. Joseph sustained wealth because he was already rich on the inside. And that's what you need to build. Don't fool yourself. The path of prosperity requires persistence, but it's simple. It begins with small daily decisions. It starts when you stop looking at what's missing and begin acting with what you have. It grows when you stop depending on others and begin to become your own source of motivation. And it blooms when you understand that wealth is not a destination. It's a lifestyle, a way of thinking, a mental pattern that strengthens over time. And now that you've started to understand this, it's time to go deeper. In the next section, we'll talk about another man who became one of the richest in history, Solomon. And we'll understand how wisdom shapes the path to wealth. Solomon. That name, to this day, is associated with one of the greatest expressions of wealth ever recorded. His fame crossed continents, attracted kings and queens, and his prosperity was so impressive that even people unfamiliar with the Bible have heard of his greatness. But what few realize is that Solomon's wealth didn't begin with luck, nor did it fall from the sky. It began with a choice, a request, an internal positioning. Solomon understood that wealth without wisdom leads to destruction. So when he had the opportunity to ask for anything, he chose wisdom. And with that, he unlocked a flow of prosperity so great that it remains a reference to this day. The lesson here is clear. A mind prepared to handle wealth is more important than the wealth itself. Solomon knew that without wisdom, money is lost. Without wisdom, opportunities are wasted. Without wisdom, a rich person today can become poor tomorrow. So by choosing wisdom, he was choosing a mindset that sustains wealth. And you need to apply this to your own reality. Before seeking more money, seek to become someone wiser about it. Before wanting big things, train yourself in small decisions. Because what Solomon had wasn't just knowledge, it was discernment. It was the ability to see beyond appearances. And that's what most people don't develop. A scarcity mindset looks for shortcuts. It wants easy money. It wants quick fixes. But true wealth is not built in a hurry. It is built with depth. And that begins with the quality of your thoughts. It starts with how you make decisions. It starts with what you value. Solomon didn't start out rich. He became rich because of how he thought. He saw money as a tool, not an end. He understood that prosperity is the result of applied wisdom. And here comes a question you must ask yourself honestly. Have you been seeking wisdom about money or just wishing for more of it? They're two different things. Wanting more money without wisdom is like wanting to drive a powerful car without knowing how. It may be exciting at first, but ends in disaster. And that's why so many people live repeating cycles of scarcity, because they're not training the mind. They're just trying to survive. But that's not enough. You were made to prosper, to expand, to influence. But none of that will be sustainable without wisdom. Solomon also shows us that wisdom is not passive. It's not sitting around waiting for something to fall from the sky. It's seeking, it's studying, it's observing, it's learning from mistakes. It's surrounding yourself with good advice. It's making decisions based on principles, not emotions. And that changes everything. Because a person who makes decisions based on emotions lives on a roller coaster. One day they're motivated, the next day they give up. One day they dream big, the next they say it's impossible. But someone who acts with wisdom builds a solid foundation. Even if growth is slower, it's stable. And wealth without stability is just temporary illusion. Now think, have you been acting wisely in your financial life? Have you studied how money works? Have you controlled your impulses? Have you planned what you want to achieve? Or have you left it all in the hands of luck, waiting for a miracle? This reflection is essential, because until you take responsibility for your growth, you'll remain stuck in the same place. Wisdom is like a key. It opens doors that strength cannot. And that's what Solomon discovered. Another trait that marked Solomon's prosperity was clarity. He knew what he wanted. He knew what he was building. He had vision. And that's something many people lack. They live on autopilot, work, pay bills, complain, survive, but have no clarity about what they really want. And without clarity, there's no direction. And without direction, the mind goes into repeat mode. Life becomes a cycle without growth. But when you have clarity, everything begins to align. Your thoughts become more organized, your actions more coherent, and your choices start producing better results. Solomon built something grand because he saw beyond the present. He had long-term vision, and you need to develop that. Stop living only in the now. Start building a clear image of the rich life you want to live. What would your routine look like? Where would you live? How would you feel? Who would you be with? What would you be doing? That image needs to be alive inside you. It needs to become a point of focus, because everything you focus on expands, and everything you repeat becomes stronger. Say again out loud, I am capable of becoming prosperous. Wealth begins in my mind. Repeat it as many times as necessary. Write this phrase down. Put it somewhere you can see it every day. The constant repetition of powerful ideas is what starts dissolving the scarcity beliefs that were planted for years. You weren't born to live in limitation. You weren't born to be constantly chasing bills. You were born with the ability to transform your reality, as long as you start in the right place, your mind. Solomon also teaches us that prosperity attracts prosperity. When he began to manifest his wealth, people from far away came to learn from him. This shows that when you start living in abundance, you influence the environment around you. You begin to connect with people who think big. You begin to attract more aligned opportunities. You begin to create value wherever you go. Wealth isn't just for you. It's a channel. It flows through you and reaches others. But for that to happen, you need to see yourself as a channel of prosperity. And that starts with how you treat yourself, how you see yourself, how you talk to yourself every day. No one builds a rich life with a self-sabotaging mind. So start watching your thoughts. Start cutting off every thought that says, you can't, you don't deserve it, this isn't for you. Those thoughts are not truths. They're just repetitions of a limited past. And you don't have to live in that pattern anymore. It's time to activate a new level, a new mental standard, a new cycle of decisions. The prosperity Solomon lived is available to any mind willing to reprogram itself. We're not talking about prayer or magic. We're talking about choice, practice, and consistency. Applied wisdom, maintained clarity, aligned actions. That's the path. In the next part, we'll dive into the story of Abraham and understand how intelligent faith, combined with continuous action, can become a true engine of abundance. Abraham. When we speak of him, we speak of a man who didn't just live in prosperity. He became an eternal symbol of blessing, abundance, and multiplication. The Bible says he was very rich in cattle, silver, and gold. But what does that mean in practice? It means he built his life based on something far beyond money. Abraham's wealth began with an internal movement. He believed. And because he believed, he left his comfort zone. He left everything that was familiar. He agreed to walk without knowing exactly where, trusting only the direction he felt within. That's not a small detail. It's a foundation. Abraham is the picture of rational and active faith. He didn't believe blindly, nor did he wait passively. He listened to an inner direction and acted with courage. And here lies one of the greatest keys to wealth, the ability to trust your vision, even when there's no external evidence. Abraham left his land without a map, without security, without guarantees. But he had clarity about one thing. If he took the right steps, something greater was waiting. And that clarity comes from within. It's that quiet certainty that pushes you to do more than most would. That keeps you going even when no one understands. Because you know, you feel it. Many people never prosper because they're stuck in the idea of safety. They want everything to be 100% certain before taking a step. They want guarantees it will work before they try. But life doesn't work like that. Prosperity doesn't either. It requires movement. It requires decision. It requires action before comfort. Abraham moved with conviction. He didn't have it all ready, but he walked. And with every step he built a new reality. That's what you need to understand. There is no wealth without movement. Stagnation is a friend of scarcity. Comfort is a relative of mediocrity. Excessive comfort is an enemy of growth. Stop for a moment and think. Have you been moving toward what you want? Have you left your comfort zone? Have you done what's necessary, even when you don't feel 100% ready? Or are you waiting for a safety that will never come? Prosperity requires that you trust before you see, that you take your stand before you have it all, that you decide based on vision, not on circumstance. Abraham also shows us the power of a multiplication mindset. He didn't think small. He didn't limit his dreams. When he received the promise that he would be the father of many nations, even being old, even childless, he believed. He imagined. He visualized. He kept the vision alive. And here we have another principle you need to apply. The ability to keep alive the image of what you want to live, even when everything seems against you, even when circumstances don't help. The prosperous mind sustains the vision. It repeats, reinforces, and renews the image of the desired future every day. And how do you do that? With words, with visualization, with affirmations, with habits. Say out loud now, I am building a rich life, step by step. Simple, direct, and powerful. Write that phrase down, reread it, repeat it, because your mind needs to be trained to see the future clearly, even when the present is confusing. Another essential point in Abraham's journey was generosity. And here's a truth that's often ignored. People who are rich on the inside aren't afraid to share. Abraham was generous with his nephew Lot. He didn't fight over territory. He wasn't attached to what he had. He trusted that the source of wealth was inside him, and those who trust their own source don't panic over appearances. They don't live in fear of loss. And that's a clear sign of a prosperous mindset, the constant confidence that there is always more. That scarcity is just an illusion. That sharing doesn't diminish, it strengthens. You need to break the cycle of fear regarding money. The fear of losing, the fear of lack, the fear of not being able to handle it. All that fear is what blocks the flow of abundance. Generosity starts small. It starts with what you already have. It's a gesture, an attitude, a choice to help someone, even when it seems you can't. Because that communicates something powerful to your mind. I am enough, I am a source. And when the mind believes that, it starts creating a reality where it's true. But attention, generosity is not irresponsibility. It's not about giving everything away. It's about using resources wisely. It's knowing where to invest your time, attention, and money. It's having discernment not to waste. It's valuing what you have, and at the same time not living with attachment. A rich mind flows, it releases, it receives, it shares, it renews. Abraham's story also shows something very powerful, the importance of aligning with the right ideas. He didn't walk with just anyone. He knew who to walk with. He knew who to align with. He knew who to distance himself from when necessary. And that's a hard but necessary lesson. Not everyone can walk with you on the path to prosperity. Some people will drag you down with words, behavior, negative mindset. And if you really want to grow, you need to protect your mind. You need to limit access. You need to surround yourself with ideas and people that push you upward. Reflect. Who do you spend time with? What kind of conversations are you listening to? What are you watching every day? All of that influences your mind, and your mind is your greatest asset. Protect it like gold, because what enters your mind shapes what comes out in your life. Abraham understood this, and that's why he prospered. To close this section, here's a principle that sums up Abraham's journey. practical faith. Faith is not sitting and waiting. Faith is acting based on vision. It's taking steps even when there's no visible ground. It's doing today as if tomorrow were already guaranteed. It's trusting so much in what's coming that you begin to live as if it's already happening. In the next part, we'll talk about a lesser-known but extremely impactful character, Isaac. We'll see how he prospered even in times of drought and what this reveals about consistency, focus, and the power of disciplined action. You made it this far. You listened to every word, absorbed every teaching, and now you're facing a choice. Let this be just another piece of content that passed through your life, or decide once and for all that your reality is going to change. On this journey, you heard about Joseph, who prospered even in prison, about Solomon, who asked for wisdom and reaped immeasurable abundance, about Abraham, who walked without guarantees, but with conviction. And maybe now, something inside you is more awake. Maybe you've begun to realize that wealth isn't something distant, reserved for others, but something that begins with you, with how you think, how you feel, how you act. If there's one thing all these men had in common, it's that they believed first, acted second, and prospered as a consequence. They cultivated habits most ignore. They nurtured thoughts most don't even notice. They turned the invisible into certainty until the visible arrived. And you can do the same. In fact, you must do the same if you want to break free from the cycle of scarcity and start a new story. Your life can change, not through magic, but through building, through repetition, through decision. And now, it's up to you. If this content truly spoke to you on any level, if any part of what was said here lit up an idea or a desire to act, then do something simple but powerful. Share this video. Send it to someone who also needs a mindset shift. Someone you love and want to see prospering. Someone who deserves to hear this. And if you haven't liked the video yet, do it now. But only if you've truly decided to prosper. The like isn't for vanity, it's for purpose. It's so this content reaches more people. It's to spread what truly transforms. Now comment below, write it with strength. I am a rich mind under construction. Leave this phrase registered, not just in the video, but within yourself. Repeat it, write it, reinforce it, because that's how it all begins. You are on the path. Keep walking, keep believing, keep applying, because the wealth you desire has already begun to be born inside you.